Welcome to the Level Up Life podcast. I'm your host, Scottie Hobbs, and welcome to this episode. Today, we're going to have a conversation with Ricky Cardenas. Ricky is a native of El Salvador, Central America. He moved to the U.S. in 2003 when the company he used to work for transferred him to their headquarters in Denver, Colorado. He owns a RE/MAX franchise overseas with over 800 real estate agents. He's been married for 41 years to his wife, Terry. They have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. He's a firm believer in the power of the mind and loves life to its fullest. Ricky, welcome to the show.
All right. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here. So, long story short. Let me see. I am originally from El Salvador, Central America. I moved to the United States in, I believe it was 2003. So I've been here for over 20 years. And there has been a lot going on, man. It's been a long journey. The reason I moved to the States is because it was a job transfer. The company I used to work for transferred me to their world headquarters in Denver, Colorado, and that's the reason why we live in Denver, Colorado. And it's been a long journey. I've learned a lot throughout these decades, and personal development has been a big part of my life. Mind control is a huge deal for me. The power of words, and we will talk about all of these things in more detail, I'm sure. Family, faith, consciousness. So there is a lot to talk about.
I love that. So you moved from El Salvador just over 20 years ago. And so you're in real estate right now. Were you doing real estate in El Salvador and then were transferred here, or was that a different job?
I am still in real estate, and I was in real estate. Real estate has been my main industry. I started selling real estate at the age of 19.
Wow.
Okay, so that's not long ago.
So how not long ago, how old are you, Ricky?
Well, I am 46 backwards. So how old am I then?
You are 46 backwards. You are 64. You don't
There you
look
go.
64,
Yeah.
Ricky.
Well, and there is how you say, there is a story behind that. It is when I say 46 backwards, my age is 64, of course. When I say 46 backwards, it puts a smile on people's face, and it reminds me of the importance of feeling young and that everything is in your mind. So I like to trick my mind, and by tricking my mind, I have accomplished many things. I see that. Well, but I'm gonna finish the story of
Yeah.
all of these years. Um, Started selling real estate at the age of 19, so that's over 45 years ago, I believe. And I think there is a lot. There is a big lesson in that. It is important to stay the course. People throw the towel too easy nowadays. It is important to stay the course. 45 years in real estate, you can imagine I had some horrible years,
Yeah.
terrible. But I decided to stay the course. And that has paid off because then you accumulate. Then there is the compound effect kicks in. And then you become knowledgeable in your field, and people respect you, and it gets easier and easier as time goes by. So that's not the only thing I do. That's my main business, and we have a good real estate company. We have 800 real estate agents. That's my honor to lead them, and most of them are doing very well. All of these agents, they are in the Caribbean and Central America. So our agents are in the Caribbean, anywhere you think of: Puerto Rico, Cayman Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao. Central America is from Belize, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador. So in all of this area, Caribbean and Central America, every time you see a RE/MAX sign, a for sale sign, a RE/MAX sign, it is under our supervision, under our leadership. So we have thousands and thousands of signs all over the place. It's been a great journey.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah, and you know what? For me, being affiliated with RE/MAX has also been a wonderful journey. It's the same as Beachbody, wonderful company. Not the cheapest, same as RE/MAX, we're not the cheapest, but I don't want the cheapest. I want the good one. And I believe it's important to to affiliate yourself with a good company, because I always tell my agents, hey, you don't want to be a good sailor in the Titanic. That sucks. No, don't do that. You have to be on a good boat. And that's Remax for me, and that's Beachbody. I'm a fan of Beachbody. I'm a client, and I have practiced some of your workouts and all of that. Love Beachbody. So yeah,
Thank you.
that's a long story short. Besides real estate, besides our franchise, I also have several rental properties, and I also invest in the stock market. I'm a trader. So we're busy, but we're happy. It's a good life. It's fun.
That's awesome. One thing I love about when you popped on to this, those listening on the podcast won't hear it, but if you're watching the podcast on YouTube, you'll see it looks like some Caribbean Sea behind you, and then a picture of your family. So tell
Yeah,
me, how long have you been married? And you have two daughters, right? But
that's
tell us a
correct.
little
That's correct.
about your family, because I have a question relating family and work balance or whatnot. So tell us a little about your family.
Of course. Well, I've been married to my wife. Her name's Terry. I've been married to Terry for 41 years, and we have two daughters and four grandchildren. Now, I got lucky, and I'm not saying this, to be kind or polite. I really got lucky when I met my wife. I was 22, and at 22 I didn't know anything, and she didn't know anything either. So we could have married the wrong person easily, easily.
Yeah.
We Because it happens, right? Sometimes marriage is not sustainable. But we got lucky. We married the right person in the first go, and that was, that was very good. Now, also in 41 years, you can imagine we have had our share of challenges and of every kind, every kind. We've had it all. Same as everybody else.
Yeah.
Money, health, sex, in-laws, communication, the love language. We have all the problems, but we decided to stick together, and that paid off. Again, respect for everybody. Sometimes it's not doable. There is emotional abuse, there is physical abuse, and yeah, love is not there. So, well, it's time to call it quits. But in our case, it worked to stay the course, and that has paid off as well. Um, it's interesting because now I told you I have four grandchildren.
Yeah.
Now we look back at these 41 years and we say, honey, I'm glad we didn't quit. It, Sometimes we could have quit. And now, Scottie, somebody else would be enjoying my great grandchildren, my grandchildren, right? I would be
Yeah.
gone. Probably I would be married to another person, and she would be married to another person. So somebody else would be enjoying my grandchildren, and I would be loving somebody else's grandchildren. That's fine too. As I said before, sometimes it's not doable, it's not sustainable. But if you can make it work, in our case, it's been worth it.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, man. You made me a little emotional because I love seeing that. One of the main reasons that I invited you on. I think it's absolutely incredible that you have a lead 800 agents across the Caribbean. That's absolutely incredible. I'm just now hearing you have rental properties and that you do day trading. I didn't really know that, so thank you for sharing that with me. But one of the main reasons I wanted you on here is every time I have a little conversation with you, you talk about your family and show that respect for that. And just like building a business, 41 years in marriage and the things that you shared is a feat. It's an incredible feat. And I feel the same way. I feel extremely grateful that I met Gabby. Like I met her at a circumstance where you wouldn't feel like you'd be meeting your wife. I had a lip ring in, I had some earrings, my hair was dyed black, and I was at a music festival. And I
Ooh,
met
okay.
the most beautiful woman for me, and that's helped me grow. And so it just made me think about my marriage, and happy that we've made it. We'll make it 18 years this July,
Good for
and
you. That's
and
awesome.
I'm glad we've fought through some of the challenges as well. And one of the things I've been kind of sharing on social media outside of business is your family is your most important work. And I often put this phrase in there: your choosing your spouse will be the most important decision that you make in your life. For those out there that haven't gotten
It
married
is.
yet. The most
It
important.
truly is. It can make you or break you. Absolutely. You same as you. I have the fortune of having a wife that supports me, and I support her as well. So, oh man, it makes life easier.
It does. And so talk to me. How do you, I don't like using the word balance, but you're doing multiple things. You're leading over, 800 people in your Remax business, with sales of homes and real estate, and you have your family. So how do you balance or do all of the things that you do? Like,
Okay,
what's some advice
great.
for that?
Yeah, great question. And honestly, I'm not a very busy person, Scotty.
Yeah.
People think, oh my gosh, Ricardo must be so busy all the time. No, I'm not. And I'm proud of that because I'm a good delegator and I have created systems. And systems and people and team is what makes a business, really. I don't rely only on my own strength and skills and abilities. I have an amazing team. And I always say, and I tell this to my team and my agents, guys, don't live to work, work to live. We need to have a life because life is not very long. We have to enjoy the journey. And I love to work. I love what I do. But oh my gosh, I'm going to be honest with you. There are things better than work. You know what? Hey, having a cup of coffee with my wife, going on a hike, walking my dog. I am sorry, but that's better than working, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the way it is, right? So I put in the hours that are necessary, but I have learned to delegate and create systems, and that has truly paid off. If anyone in the audience has the capacity to hire people, to develop a team, and then leverage that and multiply yourself through your team, that's the way to go. Absolutely.
I love that. Live, wait, work to live. Don't work to live. What was that saying again? I
Mm,
need to write that down.
Okay, so we don't live to work.
Yeah.
We work to live.
Work to live. I love
Work
that.
to live. We don't live to work.
Yeah. So you've been in business a long time, since you were like 19 doing real estate. You're 46 or 40. How did you word it? 46 backwards.
Yeah, 46 backwards.
So you've been doing this for a while. You've been married for 41 years, working hard. You've created these systems and these teams, and that's incredible. Talk to us about because you said there was years that were good and years that were bad, in business. Talk to us about like your first year or two in business. What did that look like for you?
Okay, so that was back in Central America. And if you think that Central America, the real estate industry and the systems and everything is a little bit behind, well, imagine how it was 45 years ago, right? It was, oh my gosh, it was prehistoric. It was like the Flintstones. Okay, so that was my era. And but eh, I believe there is opportunity in everything. The bigger the challenge, the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. And one thing that I like to do, Scotty, is I would like to, as we go along, I will be mentioning several books that I would like to recommend.
Yeah.
So what I just said, that every challenge, every problem, yeah, every challenge brings its own opportunity of equal or greater value. That is from Think and Grow Rich. This is mandatory reading for anyone that wants to accomplish something good in life, whether it is creating a church, a family, a business, being fit, whatever it might be. This is mandatory reading. I have read this book, I don't know, maybe 15 times. I speak 3 languages. I have read it in 3 languages.
Wow.
And it has been a light for me. This book's amazing. And there was a time, for example, because you mentioned, some tough years. There was a time, for example, that we were struggling financially, big, serious problems. And I have been blessed that I have always been able to make good money. The problem is that I was spending twice as much. And you can't do that. But I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got in trouble, and and even during the darkest days, my wife supported me. And well, one time we were having this conversation, and she said, "Honey, we're poor." I'd say, "No, no, no, no. We're rich. The only thing is we don't have any money, but we're rich." And she laughed and she said, "Oh my gosh, you'll never change, will you?" And I said, "No, I'll never change. We're rich. We don't have any money, but we're rich." And what I was trying to convey is, hey, it's all up here. It depends on
Yeah.
how you see things. Because I knew that we were going to make it. And then I had two options: is sit on a bench and cry, or educate myself. And that's when I discovered Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. This book changed my life too. Because see, this is an interesting book, because you probably can't see it, but it says, I always wondered, well, what do rich people teach their kids?
Yeah.
What do they talk about during over a dinner table, over dinner? Because my dad wasn't rich. I mean, he did well, but he was an employee. He was a government employee, and he was super responsible and everything. But he wasn't rich, so he couldn't teach me what he didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And then I discovered this book that says what the rich teach their kids about money. It's like, what? I want to learn that. So I bought this book. I studied it, and it changed my life, because then I said, oh my gosh, I'm seeing this in totally the wrong way, because I was trying to rely on making more money, and that's never enough. What you need to do is to invest part of the money that you make. And that's how I created my business. And that's all thanks to Robert Kiyosaki. So when difficult time comes, which they will, it's not if, but when, well, it depends on how you approach it, right? It's your attitude. It is how you react that makes all the difference, because you can sit down and cry and victimize yourself and blame some other people. But truth of the matter is, it's an opportunity to learn and improve yourself. And you're going to come back stronger and fortified.
I love that. It's kind of like when there are those hard, challenging seasons, I hear the saying, it's separation season. What I mean by separation season is there will be the people that might blame the government, or blame the world financial, or blame the company, or there'll be the person that's like, okay, how can I take responsibility for this? How can I help shift things or make things better? And you get to
Yeah.
separate yourself from the crowd. And I think there's huge
Totally.
opportunity in those challenging times to be that person that does exactly what you said, gets out there, studies, learns, how can I grow? How can I become better? How can I serve my client better, and so forth?
Absolutely, that's the way it is. And then I remember one time specifically, in particular, in which I was able to turn a challenge into an opportunity. Um, at Remax, we were at that time, that was like 20 years ago or 15 years ago, we were expanding throughout Latin America, and I was the person in charge of that expansion. And then you saw I sold the rights for Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, and all of that. But then we got to the big dog, which is Brazil. Most people don't realize how big Brazil is. Brazil's economy is the size of all of the rest of Latin America combined, including Mexico.
Wow.
So Brazil is absolutely huge. Well, but the thing is, they don't speak English, they don't speak Spanish, they speak Portuguese. And so it was my responsibility to sell the rights of Remax Brazil. And I said, well, that's a problem because I don't speak Portuguese. No, it's not a problem. It's an opportunity. I'm going to learn Portuguese. He's like, why not? What the heck? So I learned Portuguese.
Yeah,
and Brazilians loved me for that. And I was able to do great business with them.
that's
So
that's incredible.
a challenge, you turn it around, it's an opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, earlier you mentioned a book, Think and Grow Rich. I mentioned that because I think we just showed it. We didn't mention what it was called for those that might just be listening, by Napoleon Hill. And you said you read it 15 times. You read it in 3 different languages. What's a big lesson that you learned from that book? Because it's the first book that you mentioned that changed your life. What are some lessons you learned from that?
Okay, besides the lesson of every challenge is an opportunity, um, Napoleon Hill was a very, very interesting person. He, in his book, he was really ahead of his time. He, with not with the words that we use today, but he makes reference to quantum physics. And that was 100 years ago. The guy was unbelievable. And he says that everything is made of, he uses a word, clusters, clusters of energy. And somehow he was able to imagine or to figure out that our mind affects those clusters of energy. So, my gosh, that guy was truly amazing. Nowadays, 100 years later, there is quantum physics. We have the best technology. We have been able to prove that those concepts are true.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not something that only optimists, people think. No, it is true. Our mind affects reality. So that's a big, big lesson from that book.
Yeah. I'll just reiterate the importance of listening to or reading that book. I don't know if you've ever heard this or I've ever told you this, but my first year starting building my online business, I was working 12-hour days. I didn't have a smartphone to be distracted by social media, to compare to other people. I just had this little Nokia phone. It had a little mini SD card. So it was a MP3 player phone. And I
Nice.
downloaded Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I
Wow.
listened to it 60 times in my first year of business. And it's
Oh,
like it's like 10 hours and 55 minutes, I think, on the audio. And I worked a 12-hour day. Like I could literally sit in my office, write. I wrote manuals at the time and answered service emails. And in my ear would be Think and Grow Rich. And I just got a deep-seated belief that if I got clear on what I wanted in my life and put in the daily efforts. The other book, I had 2 books downloaded, was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
oh yeah.
So I was like,
Well,
if I get this belief and put all the energy out into the world about what I wanted to accomplish, and then just did the daily, mundane activities consistently, that I would have the result. So
that's
I love that
fantastic.
you shared that book because I was like, that's a book that completely changed my life as well.
That's awesome. Congrats. You mentioned the compound effect by Darren Hardy.
Yes.
Okay, I know Darren. We're not buddies, but he knows who I am. And I sometimes I have emailed him and he responds, and sometimes we have coincided at events. And he's an awesome person and he's a great dude. So his book is super powerful as well. He talks about the power of repetition. And it's exactly what you did by listening to Think and Grow Rich 60 times. It's the power of repetition because we need to get it ingrained in our thought process. And you can't do that with one go. You have to read it or listen to it many times.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So I got a question. You talked about earlier how people will think you work a lot because they might think you do, like he's so busy, but you talk about you walk your dog, you drink coffee with your wife and spend time with your wife and whatnot. So how do you keep that, like I know you mentioned systems and teams, but how did you get into that place of where I don't have to be someone that's grinding all the time and so forth? Like, how did you get yourself to that point?
Okay. There is a concept that has defined my life a lot. It's 80-20. And that's what I do. I only do the 20% that truly produces results. And I try not to do the other 80. So for those that are not familiar with it, the 80-20 principle states that 80% of your results, whatever you do, 80% of your results, the big bulk of your results only comes from 20% of the things you do. So
Mhm.
you don't have to work that hard, really, but you have to be focused, laser focused, and you have to think, and you have to 10x. That's why I have my hat here, because And in my life, Scotty, it has paid to be intense.
Yeah.
Whatever I do, I'm intense. And that's 10x. 10x is intense. Do a lot of what pays off and don't do what doesn't pay off. So the 80-20 principle has truly helped me a lot. That's how I am able to free up time to enjoy life.
I love that.
10x, 10x and 80-20, man. All of these books are available. We're
Yeah.
so lucky. We're so fortunate to live in this era in which all of these concepts are available. For us, it is natural. But think about it, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, people didn't have all of this information. And now we have it.
Yeah.
Whatever the most amazing people in the world think and believe and do, we know it. So it's available. So it is, I think we're super fortunate to live in this day and age.
Yeah. And for the most part, that information for the most part is free. If you're willing to
Yes.
just find it on whether
Yes.
it's a podcast like this, or I listen to Napoleon Hill on YouTube for free. Like the audiobook is put up by the foundation. You can listen to it for free, Think and Grow Rich. So I was thinking when you were talking about Pareto's law, the 80-20 rule, uh, I was thinking about people that might get burnt out, or say like, I'm burnt out. I've just been working so hard, I'm burnt out. And as you were talking about, I was thinking, usually when I see that, those people, and even in myself from time, because we're never doing the 20% perfectly, right? Or 10xing
No, right.
perfectly. When I feel burnout, I'm usually finding myself distracted doing the 80% that only produces the 20% of the result. Like where you're not doing the most important activities, or you're distracting yourself with those things because they're not as easy. So you just really made me think about that. I had a conversation, speaking of the 20-80 rule. I'm mentoring a new partner in my business, and he crushed a 90-day workout. He's feeling awesome, shows up every day, and he voice messages me. He's like, I'm feeling like super overwhelmed. There's like so much information out there and so much trainings. I just don't know where to start. And I was like, man, I just got a hold
Yes.
of him, and I was like, forget about all of that stuff, man. Like all you need to do is I was like, you need to figure out what the vital, most important income producing activities are. And I was like, this is what it is. And this could be in real estate. This could be in sales, direct sales or car sales. I was like, you need to find your best way to connect with somebody and network. You need to find out their need, and you need to connect them with a product and just help them.
Yes.
Just those things. Just focus on that. Forget all the other things. The other things are the 80%. That's your
Yes,
20,
that's true.
and
And
help them.
also, don't be so hard on yourself,
Yeah.
because if you're watching this video or listening to this podcast and you have made it to this point, you're already doing great, I'm sure. You are a special person. Otherwise, you wouldn't have clicked on this thing. So cut yourself some slack. Don't be so hard on yourself. You're doing great. You're gonna get there. It's gonna happen. It doesn't happen in a year. It doesn't happen immediately. It does take time. That's the thing. That's the way life is designed. It does take time. And in benefit of full disclosure, I wasn't always a good time manager. I didn't always manage my time well. Many times I was overwhelmed, and I was working too hard and too long, and I was working 7 days a week sometimes. But then I started learning that, oh my gosh, there is a better way to do this. And then I started affiliating with top producers, people that make a ton of money, and people that have the most amazing families and the most amazing vacations. And I saw that they weren't too busy. They were not. And then I started wondering, well, how do they do this? And started asking questions and learning and studying and reading. And then you find a way.
Yeah, you just have to be patient and understand it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. One of the main reasons I want to have you on here as well is like 41 years of marriage and being in real estate from the age of 19 until where you're at. There's a lot of wisdom in Ricky. So I really wanted to be
Oh,
able to
thank you
tap
for
in and
saying
ask
that.
that. Yeah. So I have a question for you. This is a question. Usually when I'm doing these podcasts, I'm like, what does my audience need to hear? Like what are they looking for as they want to level up their life in business or in their relationships? But I have a question for you. because I've only been in
Tell me.
business for 13 years this month
Okay.
for
Tell me. I'm
myself.
scared.
Yeah, and in mentoring other people, what do you? And this isn't a specific thing that I'm dealing with right now, but I work with people that deal with this question. What's your advice to someone? Let's say you have a real estate agent, and their spouse doesn't support them very much. Like, what kind of advice could you give to someone that is in a place where they don't have the best spouse support? Like, it's not like they're in a place where they're going to get
No?
divorced, but it's just like,
Yes. Uh-huh.
Ricky,
Yeah.
why are you doing that thing? You should just do XYZ, or, you know what I'm saying? You know what my question is?
Yeah. Totally.
What,
Totally.
what kind of
Well,
advice?
well, I would flip it around a little bit, and probably the first thing to do is to put yourself in the other person's shoes, because you need to understand. In this case, your spouse is your client, so to speak. So, for example, in my case, it took me a while to understand that financial security, stability was important for her, and I would say, it's you can never generalize, right? But for most women, that is a very important thing, and for a good reason. They're not dumb, and they know that there has to be financial stability, and I think they are right.
Yeah.
So I think that the first step is to understand the other person, because hey, maybe he or she's right, right? There is a chance that he or she is right, and I am wrong.
Yeah.
And then once you understand the other person, but truly understand, I mean, from your heart and to her heart or his heart, once you really understand the other person, he or she will be more willing to understand you as well.
Yeah.
And then there will probably be some type of a compromise or commitment, right, or support. And I think that has been key. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I got another question just for you. I know you love your family, excited to be you have grandkids. It seems like every time I ask you or touch base with you, you're like, you're somewhere awesome, enjoying your life. My question, what are you most passionate about in your life? What brings you the most passion?
Okay. Um, well, of course, you can imagine how much I love my grandchildren. It's four grandchildren. The oldest one is 7, and I spend good time with them. I teach them. I have teach 2 of them already to ride bicycles. I'm teaching them chess and things like that, right? Things that their parents are too busy to teach them, because they are in the middle of everything. Oh my gosh, I was 30 and 42. And I know that sometimes, oh my gosh, I wish the day had 40 hours. But so my grandchildren are super important. Okay, now people would say, oh, you're enjoying your grandchildren, you want to enjoy, that's your goal in life, enjoy my grandchildren. No, no, that's not my goal in life. You know what's my goal in life? I'm going to enjoy my great grandchildren.
I love that.
So the children of these children, that's going to be 30 years from now ish, right? Give or take. So I am 64. By that time, I'm going to be between 90 and 100. Well, if I keep my mind busy, my body moving all the time, because motion is lotion. If I keep busy, if I eat healthy, if I have my Shakeology, it's a big part for me. Shakeology is important. Um, I think I'm going to make it with God's grace, of course.
Yeah.
Because if He wants to take me today to wherever He wants to take me, I will go, of course. But with God's grace, hey, I want to enjoy my great grandchildren. And I want to be sharp and strong and ready. I don't want to be with oxygen and wheelchair and all of that, which for some people it's unavoidable. So respect for them as well. But many times it is avoidable. Many times you design your own life. So at 64, I belong to a chat group, like everybody else, of my high school buddies. Okay, so these are the people I went to high school with, and only a few of us remain in good shape. And remaining in good shape is important, because then you can move easily. I can play with my grandchildren. I can do things. I can walk around. I can move. Have a good sexual life. I mean, all of that's important. I mean, that makes life more enjoyable. But it's up to you. You know, in America, Americans have a wonderful saying of, hey, if it's going to be, it's up to me.
Yeah.
Man, I love that thing. Since the first time I heard it, it's like, whoa, man, that's deep, that's fun, that's profound. If it's going to be, it's up to me. So do your best and forget the rest, right? Because some things are out of your control. And
Yeah.
sometimes life throws you a curveball. But as far as you can go, you can make a big difference in the quality of life that you enjoy and that you share with your family.
Yeah. And just you saying that is just a good reminder of having that clear vision of what you want your life to look like, knowing that you want to be active and with your great grandkids, when you're in your 90s, helps you make the decision today that helps lead you in that direction.
Yes, and you know what? It's important to have big goals. That's a big goal.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose 5 pounds. That's a little goal. No, everybody can lose 5 pounds. No, I want to have 40 more good years. That's a big goal.
Yeah.
And I am sure that there are probably baby boomers listening to the podcast or watching the video. And I see that some people have the the mentality of well, you know what, I'm already 60, I'm going down, I get tired, I forget things, I don't see very well. BS, man. We're halfway through, and I'm serious. Because at 60, see, there is the same difference from 30 to 60 than from 60 to 90. So we're halfway through our adult life. And the thing is that if you don't take care of your body and your mind and your emotions, and if you're not in control, then life becomes miserable. And you don't even die. That's the worst part. You don't
Yeah.
even die. You just have a miserable life. So I think that it is important to take care of ourselves. There is something else I wanted to share with you. Is are you familiar with the Silva method of mind control?
I've heard it, but I can't recall what it is. Tell us about it.
Okay. Okay, so I was one of the first students of the Silva method in Central America. That was at the age of I was probably 18 years old. And somebody, it was a teacher, a school teacher, that brought this up. And he told us, and we were 17 or 18, and he told us, you know what? I read this book, or I'm taking a course or something about how to control your mind. And I said, what? Control your mind? Never heard of that. How's that possible? But then that totally opened a big window or door for me. I learned the Silva method at the age of, I was under 20, and I have practiced that for 45 years, on and off, not every day, not even every month, but it has been a big part of my life. I have learned to control my mind. And I trick my mind into thinking what I wanted to think and
Yeah.
to react how I wanted to react. So that has been a big, big part of my life as well. Power of visualization is part of the Silva method. Nowadays, there are many other courses. There is a lot written and videos and everything about the law of attraction, the law of vibration, and all of that. And yeah, it's all topics that are related. I will give you a clear example of how I visualized an important part of my life. When my daughters were born, they are in their 30s. So that was 3 decades ago. When they were born, I said, man, I want for these girls a good husband, a great husband, because I knew the importance of having a good spouse. So I started visualizing that with my wife. She's also into all of these topics. I started visualizing this. And I say, honey, we need to start thinking of our sons-in-law. And my daughters were 2, 3, 4 years old. But hey, this is the time. We need to start thinking of our sons-in-law. How do we want them? See, because the universe will provide anything you want.
Yeah.
anything you ask, if you ask in the right way. And well, we want them family oriented. We want them respectful. We want them hardworking. And we we started feeling that they were part of our family. And 3 decades later, they showed up. And my two sons-in-law are totally amazing individuals. They respect us a lot. We love them a lot. We spend a lot of time with them. So that's the power of visualization. It is important. Visualization, um, for some people, it's a very familiar topic. For some people, it's not. It's just imagine vividly that what you desire, you already have. And then you do that through meditation or prayer, and it becomes true. I mean, the power of the mind is totally amazing. It's unbelievable.
I love that you touch base on that. I love that you touch base on that because I have three daughters. My first three kids are daughters. And so I was like, man, I don't know if I've really like I want that for them, but I don't put into practice that deep visualization of what I want for them or what I want my son-in-law. So that might be my biggest takeaway for me on this video of something to start into my practice. I do it for my business. I do it for our income, for our investments, for everything like that. But that's my biggest nugget that I took from this today. Well, Ricky, I want to ask you a final question before we wrap
Course.
this up, and then obviously leave some space for you if you have some last words you want to leave with anybody. But what's a hardship or what hardship in your life taught you the most? Like what's a hardship or challenge you went through that taught you the most?
Okay. Let me see. Well, the thing is that there are two ways to look at life. One is through a window. Okay, so I am here, in my home office. I am safe. I have heating and air conditioning. This is comfortable. This is nice. But there are problems. Now, the problems, I look at the problems through the window and I say, that's a problem. But it's not me. I mean, I'm fine, right? It's his fault or her fault. It's my boss, my supervisor, my client, the banker, the lawyer, the competition. It's like, man, they are screwed. These people are not good. I am amazing. If it wasn't because of those people, I would be doing great. Well, that doesn't work because you're blaming somebody else. You're looking at the problems through the window.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have learned to look at the problems in a mirror. At some point, you have to pick up a mirror and say, I am the cause of my problems. And I have to fix this. And ah, nobody's going to help me. I have to make this decision. It's up. If it's going to be, it's up to me. So I believe that that's a very, very good approach. Um, we have, for example, specifically throughout these 41 years of marriage, it was like 3 years ago, our daughters were very, very young, when we had the last serious arguments. I mean, so serious that the D word of divorce was on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And but we decided to look in the mirror, she and we said, you know what? We're gonna power through. We're gonna fix this, and nobody's gonna fix it for us. It's you and I, honey, and we're gonna do this. It's gonna hurt, and we're gonna communicate till it hurts, but respectfully. But we're gonna do this, and it worked because looking in the mirror is the key, I believe. It's up to one, really.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. So to end this out, someone here might listen, might be inspired by 41 years of marriage. They might be inspired by, attracting in, visualizing in incredible spouses for your children, having that family life. Someone might listen and be like, man, leading a team of 800 people. Someone might be like inspired by, the investments that you have or the lifestyle that you live. What's one final word? Let's say they're sitting across the table from you and you can just breathe some life into them. What would you say to them?
Okay, something that stuck with me has stuck with me for decades is something that I heard along the way. I don't know from who. It says that what happens in my house is more important than what happens in the White House. And I think that's very powerful, man, because people need to stop watching the news. Whether you watch MSNBC or Fox, it doesn't matter really. In my opinion, they all manipulate and they all tell half truths. And really, it doesn't affect my life. It can be a Democrat, it can be a Republican, like, yeah, rah, rah, but at the end of the day, if it's going to be, it's up to me, man. If what happens in my house is more important than what happens in the White House for me and my family. And that's all we can control. I mean, I don't have any control over the war in Ukraine or the immigration problem or the hurricane or the recession or the price of gas or anything like that. I don't have any control over that. So why would I spend my time on that? I don't watch the news. I really don't, and I recommend to people, don't watch the news. I mean, they are trash for your brain. For your brain, they are poison for your brain, and they manipulate and they profit and benefit from our fear. So I don't lend myself to that. Um, I try to keep my mind and my body as clean as possible. I'm not a saint. I'm not a preacher or a pastor or a priest or anything like that. But I believe that keeping your mind clean as possible, and your body as clean as possible goes a long way. It is an energy that vibrates, that resonates with the universe. And the cleaner you are, the more good things you're going to receive. Of course, sometimes bad things happen to good people. Well, but then we go back to, okay, there is a challenge, it's an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So I think that looking in the mirror and thinking that your house is more important than the White House can go a long way.
I love that. I love everything that we talked about today, Ricky. The knowledge and wisdom that you share. I can see now, having this conversation with you, how you lead a team of 800 agents, how you have such a beautiful family from the
Thank you.
wisdom and knowledge that you shared with us. And I'm so grateful that we spent this time together today, and want to say thank you for being on the podcast with us.
Hey, thank you very much, my coach.
Glad to have you here, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible episode with Ricky Cardenas, and we hope that you enjoyed the content we shared with you today and invite you to send this to some friends. We'll see you next time, and don't forget that your leveled up life is just a few decisions away.